Welcome to the Au Jus. I'm your host, Beeflo. This show is being sponsored by our friends Punky's Pizza and Pasta, located at 2600 South Wallace, my personal favorite eatery in the neighborhood. They have the best selections of pizzas and pastas as well as sandwiches and salads of any spot in Bridgeport. Currently, they have a terrific Monday nights only special. One medium cheese pizza for $12.99. No promo codes, no minimums. Just place the order after 3 p.m. and you get one medium cheese pizza for $12.99. Toppings can be added, but at their normal prices. Hit the website, punkyspizza.com, for all your carry-out or delivery needs, or to cater your next party. You can also call 312-842-2100. The Scarlotta family will take care of you. Punky's Pizza and Pasta. The 108ers and our good friends from SoxMachine are also hosting a live show, our annual opening day eve show, Wednesday, March 26th, at the Ramova Theater Loft, 3220 South Halstead, right here in Bridgeport. Doors open at 6 p.m., with panels starting promptly at 7:30. Tickets are $20 online. Go to 108.ing/EVE. That's 108.ing/EVE to buy tickets. This show is also powered by you, the Loyal 108 supporter. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Feel free to tickle the undercarriage in the process. Like, comment, turn on notifications, and most definitely super chat, because that's how we get paid. It's how we continue to make the content you know and love. Tonight's guest. She's from Baseball Isn't Boring, where she co-hosts the Pitch and Moan podcast with Johnny Gomes. She is also the biggest Bo Nix enthusiast that will ever appear on this program, the great and powerful Courtney Finnicum. Welcome to the Au Jus.
You know, I gotta say, first of all, thank you for having me on. You know I love this. It is amazing. I've been waiting for you to finally get me on this show.
I apologize. You know, I have some regulars that I do, and then like we have certain parts of the year where Teresi and I do like trade blog stuff. So it's like that's 4 episodes. I have my list of people, and I was like, I better get Courtney on before the season gets going. Once it gets going, then it's chaotic.
Exactly correct. And that's why when I got your message, I'm like, finally I have the great honor. Jesus. So thank you.
Well, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it so much.
But first of all, that picture you used of me is one of my favorites. So thank you. Yes, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I love that picture. No, that's a great one. And you have the shirt on for the brand. And I think you're in Detroit, it almost looks like.
So that was when I was in Detroit. That was that horrible, infamous game when Jonathan Cannon just got lit.
Yeah, not great. Yeah,
not great. But yes, I was in Detroit. That was last year. And yeah, you know, I'm like, I don't want to wear any sock shit. Like, I just don't.
You don't want to start anything. Yeah, well, that's fine. You know.
Yeah, but I'm just like, you know what? I want to represent the brand.
I've had bad altercations. I won't say altercations, but we've had some times in Detroit where the home fans didn't enjoy us that much. I'm going to be honest with you. And the beer vendors stopped coming to us because they're like, oh, the White Sox fans. We were sitting about 8 rows behind home plate, so kind of just off where the TV would pick us up.
Yeah.
And it was before the team was good, so it was like 2018 or something like that.
Yeah.
And the Sox had a big rally 1 inning, and we were going nuts. And then we noticed the beer vendors stopped coming to us. They were like, all right, fuck those White Sox fans. They can kiss our ass. We're not serving them no more.
Well, you know, that was their mistake, because if they would have known better, they should have known how much you guys would have been giving them business.
Exactly. They made a bunch of money off us.
Exactly. But it's not so much not wearing White Sox stuff on the road. I was too embarrassed to wear Sox shit.
Also fair. See, I take it as a badge of honor. I'm like, oh, fuck all these people. I don't care how shitty we are. I'm wearing our stuff. Actually, I wear 108 stuff a lot of times, so maybe it's not perfectly White Sox stuff. You know?
And that's kind of what I've been switching to, too. And I like that Baseball Isn't Boring shirt because it's Sox colors.
Yeah, that's right. You can represent without having the full-fledged Sox stuff on.
That's it. But honestly, the Bo Nix shout out. Thank you for that. Thank you.
I was not a believer because Bo Nix is like, I'm 46. Bo Nix is like 3 years younger than me, and he just gets into the NFL. He's an old-ass rookie, but he was really good this year. I mean, I got to give him his props. He actually had a very nice year as a rookie quarterback.
He actually did. And, you know, Denver, unlike the Bears, you know, the Bears had some weapons. They didn't have a line for Caleb, which was a whole shit show.
That's
but
true.
Denver had no offensive weapons. So to do what Bo did his first year, pretty exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you guys got to be thrilled. First playoff appearance in a while, and the arrow's pointing up there. But I want to talk about another team where the arrow's pointing up. Maybe not as high up currently as the Denver Broncos. But I want to talk about the White Sox. I want to get into some of the offseason. Now, a lot of my guests, I've been trying to go through the offseason because I'm trying to get a foothold of, I think about things a certain way, but I want to get some of the other bright minds of Sox Twitter to come on here and talk about some of these topics and just understand where we're at as a fan base. So first off, the biggest move of the White Sox offseason was undoubtedly the Garrett Crochet trade, Were you pleased or disappointed with the turn? What was your what did you think after you saw it come in? It was like, what was your initial reaction?
So my initial reaction was kind of like, okay, it finally happened. It was like, that
Right.
that dreaded reality. It's like, okay, the Band-Aid's officially been pulled, right?
Yep.
But the thing with what I was kind of lucky with is he went to the Red Sox. And the person that owns my podcast through Odyssey is Rob Bradford. And he actually covers the Red Sox.
Okay.
So, yep, through WEEI, he works for them, covers the Red Sox, has for years. So, of course, my ass is immediately getting on the phone with Rob and being like, okay, Rob, what do we get? Break it down for me.
Right.
And he said, undoubtedly, the White Sox had a good haul. At least 2 MVP caliber players, potentially. So, the two guys were Kyle Teal,
Kyle Teal, the catcher. Yeah, that's right.
the catcher, Kyle Teal, the catcher, and Brandon Montgomery.
Brandon Montgomery.
So, yep, those were two guys that he thinks that could be all-stars and potential MVP candidates. So, I mean, we've heard this before, right? We've heard this before.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's I see no problem with you in the past these things didn't work out and they don't always work out. But sometimes they do work out extremely well, and there's no reason not to get excited if you like some of the players coming through.
And that's exactly it, too. And, I know, and I was a little disappointed by this, too. A lot of Sox fans hated that we didn't get a top 3 prospect, right?
Yeah.
But, we still got, Kyle Teal, I believe, was rated 4, right? I think he's like 25th overall in baseball.
Right.
Brandon Montgomery's up there, too. That's pretty damn good.
Agreed.
So, for a 1 year of Garrett Crochet where he was stellar, I think the haul was pretty good, considering that there's a big risk with Crochet still.
Exactly. I'm glad you brought that up, Courtney, because people just like, he's going to be great going forward. It's like, dude was hurt a lot, and then out of nowhere, he's a superstar, and you trade him in at that point. It's like, yes, there is a lot of risk, and I'm shocked at how few people are like, well, I'm glad we unloaded some of that risk. Nothing against Crochet. Love watching him pitch, but we're in a spot where we got to unload this risk, and it was a good return, in my opinion.
I agree with you, and I think, as much as I was sad to see another, one of the only silver linings of last year disappear, and potentially a guy we could have built around potentially.
Yep.
There is a lot of risk there. And I think it was a fair trade for Garrett, and I think it was a fair trade for us. And I'm excited for hopefully the development of these guys now. That's always my nervousness, right?
Yeah. What ends up happening?
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned that your colleague said, 2 really strong players in there, Kyle Teal and Brandon Montgomery. Yep. For you, which of the players in the hall has you most interested or excited as a group? So, which of the players are you most interested in?
So I really like the Kyle Teal move, and I'll give you an example why. He has as a catcher, this is rare, but he's super athletic as a catcher. You think of a catcher, you think of like an AJ Pierzynski, right? That's the big bulky guy. Can't really move.
Doesn't
all that
run
athletic.
Well, yeah.
Kind of built like you, Beef,
Exactly. No, you're right. You're right. Because when I was in my, when I was a younger man, when I was like a preteen, I played shortstop. When I was in my teen years, it's like, you're a catcher now, son, because you're 6'2" and you're 220 pounds. You can't move no more.
Right. That's what you picture a catcher, right? A big burly guy that can take up a lot of the plate.
Yeah.
But Kyle is kind of this athletic, power hitter, offensively, minded. And one thing that I really liked about him that he actually admitted to me at Sox Fest Live is that he's a speedster. A speedy catcher.
Yes.
He's a speedy catcher. And I laughed with him. I go, do you have any stolen bag, ideas? Do you want to hit any stolen bag records? He goes, I'd love to do 20 stolen bases. Right. Hell yeah. Right.
Wow, that's ambitious. I love it. Even if the guy just knows how to run the ball, how about if he just goes from first to third on a single? My God, that would be, how excited will we be as fans in the stands for that?
And not only going from home to single or home to first or first to second, but not getting hurt. How about that?
Exactly right.
How about not pulling a hamstring?
Awesome. Yeah, I like the thought of a true like two-way catcher. A guy who is good enough on defense where there's never any concerns and the pitchers have a lot of confidence in him, but then has enough offensive prowess where it's like, okay, you're providing on both sides. And when you look at the catcher rankings year over year, there's so few of those guys. There's so few of the guys that, are competent hitters, but then also are going to catch. Most teams are just saying, fuck it, we're not going to have the offensive guy. We'll just have a guy who's a good defender and a terrible hitter. So this would be a huge boon if they can get it.
And the catcher position is interesting anyway because they got a little bit of a logjam, the White Sox now,
Too. Yeah.
as they do in a lot of positions now, apparently. But it'll be interesting in kind of the spring training too of who really sort of sets themselves apart between Edgar Carroll, right? I mean, there's there's potential with him, and it's a little bit of a logjam, but I feel like Kyle Teal, just seeing what I've read about him, what I've heard about him, I think he can maybe stand apart a little bit.
I love it. Getting back to Crochet for a second, do you think it's going to be more or less brutal watching Crochet from afar as we had to do with Chris Sale for all those years?
I still get really bitter about Chris Sale. Chris Sale is still like a thorn in my side, man. I don't know. It's, when we traded Chris Sale, we traded a 3-4 time All-Star at that point.
Yeah.
I mean,
a real stud, like a guy who everyone was like, I'm going to the ballpark to watch tonight because Chris Sale's there. Like, yeah, that kind of guy. Yep.
Literally, like that kind of guy where you just a once in a lifetime sort of talent and just a bona fide stud. And like we said about Crochet, there was no guarantee with Crochet that he was even going to come close to Chris Sale.
Yeah.
So to me, Chris Sale will always be painful. I always am rooting for him. I know, some Sox fans, they get a little shitty about Chris Sale. The whole
cutting up the jerseys. I think a lot of people like that his attitude of like, I want to go out there and win. The fuck with these jerseys kind of thing.
Literally,
a lot of people kind of like that, I thought, like.
These are pieces of shit. I'm going to cut them if I want to win. Fuck it. I respect that.
Me too.
So to answer your question, it's always going to be a Chris Sale. That was a tough one for me. And, seeing him win a World Series, right? That was really tough. It's like, you're seeing your ex-girlfriend succeed or ex-boyfriend succeed. That should have been me, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it'll always be Chris Sale. I always have a soft spot for him, and I just hope he always stays healthy too, because that's always a risk now. So
it's getting up there too. That's fair. In the offseason, the White Sox also landed, if you will, the most eligible bachelor out of the managers, and this was a shock to us. And we kept saying in the One Way podcast, how did the hot girl at the dance want to dance with the White Sox? So my question for you, Courtney, is: were you asking yourself these same questions? Why did Will Venable take the White Sox job? Why did seemingly the best candidate on the market, granted there weren't a ton of jobs out there, but still chose us as his job?
I really did. I really did. And I asked a lot of people, like, am I missing something? Is there actually something really appealing about this job that maybe we're not seeing? I mean, it was interesting, especially considering the fact that he came from Texas. And, Bochy's not going to be there forever, certainly.
Right.
Allegedly the Mets wanted to interview him before they hired Mendoza, and he kind of refused that. So, yeah, it did surprise me. And knowing about his pedigree and knowing kind of who he's worked with and how he's a Princeton grad, I mean, this guy's not a dumbass. So,
yeah, exactly.
There must have been something appealing that Getz and company kind of sold them on. So, and it's funny you mentioned the prettiest girl at the dance. I have heard a lot of female Sox fans actually say, well, Venable's kind of dreamy, kind of hot.
Now you're bringing it up. And then it's going to be Will Venable or Grady Sizemore. Then it's going to be the comparison, since Grady was the last manager before, and he's still hanging around. Grady's still going to be in that dugout somewhere, so they're going to be there together,
We may need to do a Horny Sox Twitter. And
I agree.
Will Venable, Grady Sizemore, who we picking here, and let's see how it shakes out.
I love it. I'll put it as an addendum to the 108 tourney. We'll throw that out there too. Late night horny poll here.
Late night. White Sox after dark. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, what are your impressions so far of Venable, the skipper? So far, things you've heard from him, interviews, etc. What do you think of Will Venable so far, Courtney?
So I actually got to interview him with Rob Bradford right when he was hired. So I was excited to do that, certainly. And one thing that I really liked about him that stood out to me, I had a chance to interview the great Pedro Grifol after he got hired too. And one thing that, now that I look back on that Pedro interview compared to Will, Pedro really tried to butter me up with buzzwords and what he thought everyone wanted to hear. He didn't really grasp what was truly going on within that White Sox dugout and clubhouse. Now, the thing that I liked about Will, and I've seen this in other interviews too, if someone asks him a question about the team or maybe like leadership on the team, who he thinks to step up as a leader, he's not bullshitting. He's not just saying things just to, throw out a name out there and hopefully it sticks. Like, he's actually okay to say, you know what, I'm still learning about the team. We'll reconvene on this once I have a better grasp of the organization and the team. And to me, that's refreshing to have a guy basically say, hey, I want to get this right before I, basically start shooting off at the mouth. So I like that about him.
I'm
And
glad you brought this up, Courtney, because I noticed that as well, and I wasn't 100% sure if that is just his natural like candor from being a player
yep.
and knowing how to work with the media, or if the White Sox were like, look, the last guy burned himself up going over his skis with a lot of this stuff. You should be
Yep.
careful. Like I kind of been watching him a little bit from afar because right after the initial Pedro presser, I lit him on fire, and everyone on Sox Twitter is like, "Oh, Beef, you're being a hater already." You know, I was like, "No, I don't trust this guy. There's a lot
Right.
wrong here." And I was watching Will Venable for some of the same things, and yes, he has the Princeton polish and all this stuff, but I have noticed he's not stepping out in any way, shape, or form very far. And if he says something, it usually like he feels comfortable that he's got a good grasp of it. He's not just making some stuff up.
And I completely agree with that. And one thing that really stood out to me when I talked to him, when I interviewed him, is he really learned a lot from his father. Like, I asked, his father was a former big leaguer, and he grew up being in clubhouses. And he told me he saw tough conversations between teammates. He saw tough conversations between a manager, a coach, and a player. And that was instilled in him very early on. So I think he has that credibility to growing up, seeing his father play with, a bunch of major league teams and also overseas as well. He was in Japan, I believe the Dominican as well. He got a taste of different cultures and different styles and how a clubhouse really works at a young age. And I think that made a big difference to how he goes about dealing with the everyday stuff.
I mean, I love to hear all that, and I love to hear that, you kind of gather that, too, from the discussion with him, because this team is going to need a lot of soft touch. It's going to need a lot of care, because there's a lot of young players here. And there's going to be some tough situations where guys who thought were a guy, you're benched, and the next guy who's performing is in there. And Will's going to have to sit here through all that and coach these guys, love these guys, hug these guys through all this thing, basically.
Hug them, give them tough love, and then
Exactly.
hopefully not treat guys the way, or rookies the way Pedro treated the rookies. That's for damn sure.
Exactly right.
That's
Excellent.
for damn sure.
Excellent point. Now, if we're judging Will Venable, the skipper, on year one, what ways in which you'll look at his performance or the team's performance in general and say, okay, this is how I'm judging how year one works out?
To me, 2 words: accountability and consistency. I think a lack of accountability has been huge with the teams in the past. Pedro certainly held certain people to a certain standard that was not deserved. I actually, when I interviewed Will Venable, I said the word accountability. He goes, "That's one of my favorite words." So I'm like, okay, that's very encouraging. I also want to see consistency. I want to see a fucking consistent lineup out there, game in, game out. Seriously. I don't want to see random people in right field. I don't want to see random people in fucking first base.
Amen.
I want a consistent, as much as you can, a consistent lineup that makes sense. Put it out there day in, day out. See what happens. Experiment. Let these kids play and figure it out.
I love that. And, there's a time for messing with lineups or whatever when you got a bunch of veterans, but let some of these young guys get comfortable. This is your spot you hit in. This is the position you play. Let's not fuck with everyone so much so early.
Honestly, it's okay for a player to go 0 for 10. It's okay to, that's life. That is life. I mean, you have to teach these kids that, all right, you're on a bad streak right now, but now get the hell out of it and see how you bounce back from it. That's part of it, isn't it?
Right? Yeah, so, it has to be. Otherwise, they're never going to learn. You're right.
And it made me sick with Pedro, the way he just was messing with these rookies. They would struggle, and then all of a sudden they're getting back down to Charlotte. It's like, dude, let these kids work it out, I mean, fuck.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, moving off of Will Venable, the elephant in the room right now is Luis Robert Jr. There's a lot of discussion.
I'm already laughing.
A lot of talk about trading him. The White Sox fan base is very split on him. There is a group of people that are like, get him the fuck out of here, let's move on, etc. There's another group of people who are like, you can't trade him yet because his trade value is too low. Let him play. He's going to work it out. He'll be much better than he was last year, and then we'll hold on him for a trade. If you were handicapping it right now, Courtney, do you think he gets traded before the team comes north and they're playing the lid lifter on March 27th here against the Angels? Or do you think this is going to be kind of a quasi trade deadline, early July, late July trade?
The vibe I am feeling and I'm getting, and this is kind of just off my gut, okay? I really have no stance on this. I have a roller coaster relationship with Luis Robert. I feel like a lot of people do, but I
Got
really
the chain.
do.
I got that. I love Luis. He had a very bad year last year.
And yes, he has. But the thing with Luis, he's been healthy 1 year, right? 1 year.
Right. Yeah.
And I really do believe in my gut, and this is whatever day it is, February 10th. I really feel like it'll be a Dylan Cease situation where he gets traded before the season starts.
Okay.
That's my gut.
Yeah, that's interesting because it does seem like there's enough smoke out there about offers, about discussions, about whatever, that you think that the White Sox seem like they're motivated to turn the page here.
Yep.
For whatever reason. It seems like Getz, maybe he just wants to shed the last group in totality and feel like we're starting anew with the post rebuild prospect group and have them go forward or whatever. But I'm with you in the way that I have those eerie feelings that I think that's probably the approach you're going to go. I don't know if it'll end up burning them and they won't really get a great return on it. It's kind of interesting to see, like, the stuff I've seen floated out there. I just think to myself, Luis was worth 5 WAR in 2023. Like, we're going to really trade him for just that. Like, but I mean, he had a bad year last year, and who knows with the rebound and the injuries. You're right.
And I just think I think a lot of these teams have him figured out. Figured out as in, like, okay, maybe we can keep him healthy with, what we can do something a little differently than the Sox are doing. Mm-hmm. But I think they know that there's a big risk with this guy. I think they also know that he can be freakishly talented when he's motivated and when he's healthy. But again, that's a huge risk. So I just think that I think the Sox fans are going to be disappointed in that return. Let's just put it that way.
Okay, all right. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I kind of think so too. And truth be told, I wondered if even he had a good first half and they traded him, if Sox fans wouldn't have still been a little bit disappointed, just given how good he was in 2023. The prospect that he was coming up, where it was like, okay, this guy has got superstar potential, which he does. I mean, I still think he does, even though he hasn't. He's only shown it for limited glimpses. Yeah, I'm almost of the I'll be relieved when he's gone. Like you mentioned the Crochet thing about, like, you're relieved that it's over. I'll be relieved when he's gone, although I'll miss watching him play because I really like sitting where I sit in 108. I have a great vantage point of watching the outfielders play defense.
Yes,
and
do.
Watching Luis Robert play defense has been a rare joy of watching that outfield over the last 5-7 years or whatever.
You literally said it perfectly. It has been a rare joy. And honestly, when that Band-Aid's officially ripped off with Robert, what is this team going to look like?
Yeah, exactly. They're holding on. We have one real player on offense. He's going to be gone.
Every graphic I see is just like a bunch of prospects, and then Luis Robert in like a giant photo of him for 2025. I'm like, come March 27th, that might not even be a real thing. So I don't know.
True. Speaking of what will this team be, the White Sox, as you mentioned in the front part of this, they kind of have started stacking players at various positions. And for a team that is coming off of only 41-win season, they actually have an interesting storylines heading into spring training as far as position battles. Third base seems to be up for grabs. Shortstop, second base. Out of all the position battles, Courtney, that the White Sox seemingly have right now, which one is piquing your interest the most, and which one are you excited to dig in on as we get to spring training?
To me, it's up the middle. It's second base and shortstop. Our defense has been so poor up the middle, right? It really has.
Yep.
So I feel like we have potential guys, Colson Montgomery, being at the front of my brain, right? Colson Montgomery.
Yep.
I feel like he can be a guy out there that maybe fixes that hole finally. But, as we discussed, I mean, third base. Third base is interesting. They're talking about Brian Ramos, down at third. I have trouble pronouncing his name, and I hate I got to get better. Chase Medroth.
Yeah, Medroth. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, he's an interesting candidate too for maybe even breaking camp with this team. He was part of the Crochet trade.
Yep.
So I feel like there's such a log jam in the infield right now that I don't know how they're going to do this. I mean, they also signed a bunch of veteran infielders.
Yeah, they signed Josh Rojas to come in here, and he plays second and third. So he's in both of the potential stockpiles of talent there. It's kind of interesting. What about Lenyn Sosa? Do you think Lenyn Sosa ends up on this team when we come north? Or is he out of here? Because he's another guy who's been around for a long time. We were having a good laugh, having some drinks the other night, and Treasy tells me, he goes, I can't believe Lenine Sosa's out of options. He goes, how's he out of options already? I'm like, I don't know, man. It just happened fast.
Honest to God, I'm laughing so hard because I completely forgot about him.
Yeah, exactly. But he's still hanging around here. He's just still amongst this group.
And honestly, I feel like there's a bunch of Sox, because it got me included too. Like whenever he gets called up, you're like, maybe this is the spark that we need. Maybe he can give us a spark finally. And it's like, and he plays, 5 games. It's like, oh no, that guy's a life minor leaguer. No.
It's not happening there.
Not happening. But another guy that they signed, who I got to know with the Angels, is Brandon Drury. And,
yeah, that's right. NRI. Yep.
He had a great year in 2023 with Marcus Thames, which is interesting. But he had a god awful year last year. So, but he's a 32-year-old. So it's like, what are we doing here? Let's let the kids play. Let the kids play.
Well, that's what's interesting too. So I'm glad you brought up Brandon Drury, because guys like that are interesting to me from the standpoint of, you're right, you do want to give a long leash to these young guys and make sure they're playing very consistently. Do they have to play every day? No, they can be subbed out occasionally, but we need them in there majority of the time. So then how do you build your bench? Because we have a lot of young guys here. You don't want to put a young guy on the bench who's never going to get on the field. And so that's where some of those older guys like Brandon Drury come in. It's like, if he makes the team and he's only playing twice a week, you're okay with that because you're going to let these young guys play. And I don't know, it doesn't feel fully baked looking at how the White Sox are set up right now that they've thought about that. Like, there are so many young guys that really would require playing time, and so few of the guys, like, I know they went out and signed Josh Rojas. My assumption is that they want to play him, but he is an older guy who, like, could he sit on the bench half the time and it doesn't bother him? Yes, but I think they want to play him so that you get to the point where who are the veterans that you're going to sit on the bench, or who are the guys you don't care if they play every day? It's going to be an interesting story. It's like, as bad as they are, Courtney, there's a lot to watch, in my opinion, with spring training.
There actually really is. And that's why when, the football season officially ended yesterday with the Eagles kicking ass, I love that, as you can imagine, as a Bronco fan. I thought, you know what? I really did. Trust me. I'm like, okay, now we can officially flip the calendar to baseball, right? And I feel like, this team, I made a joke about it on Twitter, this video, the video the White Sox put out, I've never been more hyped for 54 wins in my life. Right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But because there is storylines within this team that I think will keep our interest. I do.
I totally agree with you. I love that thought process right there.
Yeah.
Now, you were at Sox Fest Live, and obviously you have the podcast too. You have interviewed a bunch of the young White Sox prospects. So just from a personal standpoint, interviewing, personality, interactions with these people, who is someone that you're rooting for just based on your interaction with them?
Colson Montgomery, hands down.
Love it.
Yeah, Colson, and I heard this when I was kind of in the media scrum too with, Scott Merkin, of course, who I've known forever. Friend of the program, right?
Yes, friend of the program, yes. He's been on here. He did the live show with us at Reggie's. That was a great show. Cut it up with us there. Yeah, friend of the program for sure.
Yep, and he, he said, if you can get Colson Montgomery, you'll be happy with him. He'll give you what you need. He's a good talker. And what stood out to me when I finally got, Colson was by himself, I introduced myself, I grabbed him. He goes, let's go over to this corner. The lighting's better. I went, oh, my man.
I love it.
I went, thank you. That's fantastic. And, he's very thoughtful, very personal, and sort of on just kind of a physical standpoint, he's gained a lot of muscle mass.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's
to
kind
maximize
of
that power. Get that. Hit the ball in the ballpark. I love to hear that. Yeah.
And another guy that I thought was, I talked to Kyle Teal as well, and he of course gave me the 20 stolen bag goal. But I also asked him about what he said on Fall Territory about doing batting practice naked.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What did he have to say? What was his full response to this? Because I heard this, I cracked up, and in a way though, I loved it because there is a little bit of like when you're by yourself, and I'm not saying completely naked, but people do stuff in their underwear, the shirts or whatever, normal things that they would do, or repetitions of their life, or even mental reps of stuff. So to hear that he did this, he's just admitting something that I'm sure other players do. But what did he have to say?
So I can tell that he was kind of like, he blushed a little bit, right? He blushed a little bit.
Love it.
Which I'm like, oh, that's kind of cute. I mean, the thing at these players, Beef. They look so young. I'm like kind of like the older woman now.
Well, I saw them. We came over on Friday night. I saw you on Friday night. Now me and the boys were drinking. You're there in official capacity. We're getting hammered.
Right.
But yeah, I saw them. I saw these kids, and I'm like, because my daughter's 15. I'm like, my daughter's not a lot younger than these kids. Like, what the hell?
I mean, I talked to Brooks Baldwin, and there's not a chance in hell he's over 21. He's got to get ID'd every chance he gets.
Yeah, the comments are loving Brooks Baldwin.
I got a Brooks Baldwin. Yes, love Brooks. Love Brooks. You know, he's another guy in the infield. I mean, what the hell are they going to do with Brooks Baldwin? You know?
It's stacked up. I mean, I was looking at that as he has a chance at having. He does. All these guys kind of have a shot at starting. Like, and it's weird. Just like, as I always consider spring training as like this like performative practice almost, right. But it's so tight that you maybe could gain some real information about spring training and figure out who should be out there playing.
But I did want to answer you about Kyle Teal and his nakedness. I think
it's
do. Important.
Please do.
So he said he blushed. And then he's like, you know what? I think I am going to bring it back to Chicago. We'll see. It's not sure yet. It's not 100% sure yet. I go, okay, I'll ask you at spring training.
Yeah, I was going to say, he better be careful with that because people in Chicago, they're weirdos. They might try to figure out where he's at, and next thing you know, he's on TikTok completely naked. Who knows what can happen there?
Horny White Sox Twitter, you know, some of our girls. You know.
Oh, they get out of pocket. There's no question about that. There. Yeah, you got to hose them down. That's how bad they were getting out there. Last White Sox question I've been asking all my guests is: how many wins would make this White Sox season fun for you, Courtney?
It's a great question. I'm usually a glass half full person. I'll be honest.
Okay, me too.
I usually am. Yeah. You know, if they can finish right around 59, 60 wins, I would consider that a success. But if they can somehow creep below the 100 loss mark, I'd pop champagne with you guys in the 108.
That would be nice. That means some things went right. Some of our young players played better than we thought, I think is like the thought there.
I agree. I think if that happens, that would be a gigantic win. Yes.
I love it. 59, 60, 63, 65. Let's go.
65. Yes, I'd love that.
Let's get us some wins. Couple more questions. Courtney, you're a longtime sales professional. Believe it or not, we do not do content for a living. Each of us, we have real jobs. I was wondering if you had any tips from your professional career to help some of the White Sox Twitter brands and podcasts that are out there build their brand. There's not as many as there used to be. Believe you me, when it was coming up on the rebuild's going to be perfect, whatever, there was a million of them. A lot of them have died, but a few are hanging around, and many of them watch this show. So if you have any tips for them, we'd love to hear it right now.
My biggest thing, and honestly, this is in life, this is in the podcast world, this is in the sales world certainly, personality is key. You know, just be yourself. You know, I'm not saying that you go on air and you drop F-bombs every other sentence like we do in normal life.
Don't steal the 108's bit, all right? Don't do that.
Don't steal your gimmick.
Exactly.
But you know what? Be yourself. Put out the content that you're comfortable putting out. And also really know about the brand and what you're trying to talk about. You know, that's the biggest thing in sales that I learned at 21 years old. Know the product you're selling, know your customer base, and educate yourself. And then that'll take you far. So personality, being yourself, and knowing what the hell you're talking about, at least, you know, fake it till you make it kind of thing.
I love it.
You know, just educating yourself and then doing the best you can content-wise and just putting yourself out there. Take the risk. Take the risk. Take the risk.
Baloney in the comments says personality is key. Damn, Courtney just killed a couple more White Sox Twitter podcasts. All right, we're not saying. We're not naming no one, Baloney. Take it easy.
Baloney, oh my God.
That was terrible. All right, last question. If you were in charge of selling these White Sox to the fans, what would you do, Courtney? What if you're given free reign? How do you sell this team to the White Sox fan base? And they're a grouchy fan base right now. You and I are glass half full, but there are a ton of grouches amongst us.
There are. And, you know, my biggest thing, do you remember the year 2000? The year 2000?
The kids can play. I love it. I love the kids can play. That's right.
I seriously say this all day long. That is one of my truly favorite teams, right? Was the kids can play team because they were not really projected to be anything, right? Nope. Anything. And then, you know, they had the big brawl with the Tigers back in April, and that kind of brought them together. To me, not that this team needs to go out and brawl with the Tigers, even though that'd be kind of fun.
I'd love it, but yeah, now we're not condoning. We're just
Not condoning violence, but I wouldn't hate it. But to me, you sell the youth. You sell these kids are growing with us. We're developing. I can't even talk, Beef. Developing them at the ground floor. Will Venable's in charge. The kids. He's a young manager, first timer. Let's really embrace the youth. Embrace the youth. The kids can play, and on top of that, business-wise, marketing-wise, half off concessions. Seriously, and that includes beer. We need the beer. We need the concessions at least half off. At least.
I agree with you there. Like more specials, more just get asses in the ballpark. But you're right about the kids can play. The kids can play. We're not highly touted, but the kids can play. Scored 978 runs, which is the most ever in White Sox history. That team came out and hit like a motherfucker immediately, and a lot of young talent on that group, especially the pitching side. There was a lot of young guys there. And so when I look at projections of the 2025 White Sox, I do think about that team, Courtney, because I think, who's going to pop? Who from this group is going to jump up? And when we're in September, we're like, man, those couple players had great years. I was not expecting that. And the trajectory of this team has changed substantially. That's what I hope and pray for.
and honestly, you never know, because if you look at that 2000 lineup, I mean, we had a young Magli Ordonez, we had a young Paul Canerco, we had a young Carlos Lee. Remember El Caballo? Come on, El Caballo.
Yeah, those guys hit. They absolutely did. And we didn't know they were gonna, but they did. Yeah.
And they got thumped by the crazy Mariner team, back in 2000. But you know what? Why not? Why not sell the youth? Fuck it. Sell the youth. Kids can play round two. Let's go.
Kids can play round two. I love it.
Yep.
Courtney, thanks for providing your thoughts on the Garrett Crochet trade. Will Venable, Luis Robert Jr. trade market, the prospects, and selling the White Sox to the fans. Remember, we ain't trying to be right on the show. We're just trying to understand. Is there anything you want to plug before you go?
Yes, my Baseball Isn't Boring podcast, which is also pitched and mown under the same umbrella with Johnny Gomes. I have Tom Brenneman coming up tomorrow, which will be very exciting.
That'll be interesting.
Got some Castellanos talk guarantee there.
Love it.
But you can find that podcast through everything you get your podcast for. Odyssey, it's through Odyssey, so feel free to download and subscribe.
Awesome. Courtney, thanks so much for joining me. It's been too long. We'll have to do this again sometime soon.
Yes, we will. I appreciate it as always. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
That was Courtney Finnicum. That was great. I love the callback to the kids can play, man. That was a time ago, but that was a great time ago. Next week's guest on the audio, I'm going to have Todd Welter from Locked On Sox on here. I've done Locked On Sox a couple times with Todd. Haven't yet returned the favor here. We're going to go over some of these position battles. I want to talk through some of that stuff, and I want to get in his brain and how the hell he programs a 5-day-a-week show about this team when it's not during the season. It seems like an impossible feat to me, and so I'm extremely interested to see what he has to say. Thanks again to Punky's Pizza and Pasta and all the One-Away families up in the YouTube comments. Appreciate you smashing the like button. Comments. We'll see you on Thursday for the One-Away podcast. Goodbye, and I love all of you.